And these fundamental markers are all places that people are going to be able to tell where the tone of your overall track is going to sit. Okay, today I'm going to make an attempt to explain how to find your signature sound. These are going to be some sound design tips and how you can really start to get a feeling of, mood, tone, and characteristics, and how to find that vibe that you're looking for your own sound. So I'm going to be using Operator just because it's going to be easy for me to be down here, and then we'll be looking at a lot of this stuff mostly through Pro Q3. So let's jump right in. Okay, so coincidentally enough, the fundamentals of sound design come from the fundamental of your sound design. So if I hit the space bar here, we got a D note, and this is going to be your fundamental. The lowest note in the key that you're in. Harmonics and fundamentals are going to make up a majority of the vibe you're going for, or the mood that you're trying to set with whatever sound you're trying to create. So if we have this being the fundamental, let's go and add a seventh in here. As you can see, we have a seventh note on the harmonic. I'm going to get this out of the way real quick. So as you can see, we have the fundamental and then our harmonic. We distinguish melodies with our ears through the harmonics of the sound. And so a lot of the, like I said, the mood and the melodic content and character of this is going to be based on the actual harmonic content in the key that you're in. Some people can do a lot of sound design just by using a lot of notes to build chords and chord progressions, and you'll get 80% of the way where you're trying to go just by using some music theory and knowing your chords and trying to build an overall tone. Now, obviously, when I play this, it doesn't really sound that great because, we have a fundamental and then there's just kind of a bell noise just kind of ringing on. So what we're looking for to get out of this is now we're going to introduce some tone and color into this to really get the sound to kind of fill up and find a healthy balance of where it's going to sit in the mix. There's a lot missing in this area, and we kind of need this to make sense because from a psychoacoustic, or whatever you want to refer to it as, like how we hear it in our ears, this is going to sound very weird because there's this drastic difference between the two, and your ears are separating the fundamental from the harmonic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple layers to this just to fill it out just slightly, just so we have something to saturate. But what I'm going to do now is, this is the main algorithm that Operator sits on, which is top to bottom FM. But this, on the far side of the spectrum, these are all different algorithms. On the far side, from the FM top down, is going to be the parallel. So this means that all of these are going to be their own out. So I'm just going to beef up the low end just a little bit, and then I'm going to add, a fifth in here, just to kind of fill the sound out just a little bit. We still have the same overall tone, obviously. Something that you're going to need to learn is the differentiation between tones, colors, distortions, and characteristics. So here, I'm just going to use this as an example because it's built right into Ableton. We have amp. So what this does is it reenacts the characteristics or tone quality that you would get from running like a signal through an amp. Like everyone who's ever played a guitar is going to know all about this. And you control which frequencies ranges are going to be affected through the signal carrier and the characteristics. So let's just say we want this to sound a little more gritty. Put it on the rock setting. This obviously gives a lot more harmonic content, but this is sort of a destructive way to add characteristics to a sound. And I'll show you why in a second here. What I'm going to do to control the tone and color of this without doing it in a destructive manner, meaning taking a lot of energy away from the sound, is I'm going to saturate this. And I'm going to actually use the saturation algorithm, but I'm going to put it on heavy saturation just for the video. And then I'm going to boost the lows and mids just a little bit so we have a lot more character. I'm going to start driving this. And as you can already see, it's put a lot of character into it, and it added a lot of harmonics. So this fills out the sound and makes it a little bit more palatable for the ears, while still remaining the mood or the tone of the sound. So now we've got a nice little wavetable. Now let's really give some character to this. And this is the part where you're going to be able to start hearing how to process sounds and differentiating with your ears what sounds you like. And this is going to be the exact path that's going to take you into finding what your signature sound is. So I'm going to pull up a preset here. I have a bunch that I use. I use this reptilian one, and Trash is an awesome distortion unit. You can usually get this thing on sale for like 40 bucks. It's well worth it if you're trying to distort sounds, give it a little bit of character and really beef it up. And it's great because it does come with multi-band functionality. So on this setting, I'm going to take the dry wet down. This is the low end, and I have the low end just saturated just a little bit to beef it up. This patch that I use is just for beefing a sound up and really filling it out. Let's go to the mid-range band, and you're going to hear when I add this in that it just beefs the whole sound up a lot. So now, as you can see, it's gotten a lot more presence in the mix and filled out a lot of the way. It's a nice overall full contrast sort of sound. You know, that's going to be a lot more pleasing to the ears because there's a connection between where our fundamentals at and then where our harmonics and, you know, quote unquote tone of the sound is, or the mood. Dive into here and show you the different types of distortion. Obviously the algorithms have a lot of different kinds. There's saturation and fuzz and drive, and all these are going to have different characteristics. Let's go into distort. These two are going to be just like the amp. They're going to be drivers and cabinets. So a lot of these are going to give a lot more characteristic to your sound, maybe more than you want. If you want something more subtle, I would recommend maybe doing some saturation just to fill the sound out more. And if you start listening through all these different algorithms, you're really going to start to find stuff and, you know, the different kinds of tones and stuff that you're looking for. So I'm going to play this and then run through some of these and use them as an example of how you're going to define your sound and what characteristics that your sound is going to have. Let's just use this one as an example. And real quick, I'll say that the reason why finding your characteristics and being able to hear what your processing is doing and knowing when to use your processing is so important is because this is how people like Skrillex and Noisia really defined their signature sound. Skrillex is known for kind of creating the classic dubstep growl noise and, you know, what people are referring to as yoinks nowadays. And Noisia, on the other hand, has a lot of, you know, Reese, Juno, hover, neuro bass lines, neuro funk stuff. And these are, you know, classically, a lot of sounds actually do have names, you know, like the Reese, donk, hover, to be able to define their characteristic. And a lot of tracks become iconic because of the characteristic of, you know, maybe the main sound of that song, which could be, you know, a classic Juno hover sound, which has been used in drum and bass and techno music for decades now. And these are the kind of staple sounds that become signature sounds for a lot of artists and producers, you know, worldwide. So being able to understand, you know, going from just a fundamental all the way to something that's characteristic to what you like doing and putting in your music. It's really going to help solidify who you are as an artist and really the attention on your production quality and skill. Anyways, I'm using this sound to really kind of shape the frequency spectrum that this sound has now, and it's giving a little bit of resonance to it. I'm just going to use this as an example, and now we can really shape the sound to define the characteristic of what we're looking for. So I'm going to drop a filter on here. And let's get rid of some of that high end because it's a little bit much. Some of the more fundamental stuff that we've kind of lost through the processing, we're going to add that back in just a little bit. In this area, we've got sort of that resonance that's kind of giving the character its defining sound. So I'm going to lean into that just for the sake of the video. And this is going to be dependent on your own ears. You know, I'm just using this as an example because it's an obvious zone that the characteristic has, you know, come to from the processing that I've done. Now, as you can see here, we've got a nice sound. So this is how you want a sound essentially to kind of look when you construct it from scratch. Having something that's very focused in the fundamental range so you can set it in the mix in an appropriate place so you have room for your kick, snare, and subs, and etc. is very important. And these fundamental markers are all places that people are going to be able to tell where the tone of your overall track is going to sit and sound. That's what gives a song a vibe, is making sure that everything's sitting in the correct place and making sure that things aren't masking each other and swamping them out in the mix so that there's, you know, you can't tell what kind of key it's in or what kind of mood the track has. For the most part, that's the way that you're going to be able to find your own signature sound and how you can hear what your processes are actually doing when it comes to saturation, different colors of distortions and characteristics. I recommend going through, obviously, you know, if you don't have any third-party plugins, you can just use amp. Erosion's just going to add noise, but there's some resonators, or just even going into operator and looking at this and adding harmonics in, you know, just by listening, you know, with your own ears. Pedals, probably a good one. Corpus, add sound. Saturators. And saturator could be a good one to use because you can go in here and change this to wave shaper and then shift the kind of waves that you're using and get to know it a little bit more and find ways to, you know, characterize the sounds that you have. Shifter, cabinet, dynamic tube. And there's a couple of things that come just stock inside of Ableton that you can use to sort of build your own characteristics. But yeah, Trash is a really good one. There's obviously other stuff like, you know, Saturn and other plugins like Portal, and, you know, the list goes on. So that's the way that you're going to really lock in a signature sound, is finding the plugins and everything that you use and finding the things in the processes that really make you feel good about the way your sound is being shaped ultimately in the long run. So yeah, I hope this video was informative, and so you have a way to have healthy habits when approaching sound design and how to create sounds that you're trying to find. Drop some questions in the comments below if you have any, and I'll get to them, and then maybe I can make a part 2 of this video, and then we could do a deeper dive on how to make particular kinds of sounds and shaping sounds and really kind of utilizing maybe more envelopes and filters to kind of shape and get movement and dynamics out of your sounds. Yeah, all right, you have a good day. Bless it.